I rushed to the park the moment I received her call, but what she said there was enough to leave me completely shaken. She uttered something utterly unexpected and then fell silent. I sat there, stunned, staring at her, unable to believe a girl could say something like that. At first, I thought I had misheard, but when she repeated those words, a chill ran down my spine. Why would she want something like that, especially when our wedding was just 2 days away? Her request shocked me to the core. I asked her, "Are you in your senses? What are you saying? Why would you want to sleep with me 2 days before the wedding?" And she simply replied, "I just feel like it." I tried to reason with her, telling her, "Just hold your desires for 2 more days. After that, we will be one. We'll be bound together in a sacred relationship. Why are you trying to drag both of us into sin? Do you realize that this would be considered fornication, whether the wedding is 2 days away or 2 hours?" I added, "After marriage, whenever your heart desires, you can come close to me. I'll always be yours." But now, why this insistence? Why put both our souls at risk just to satisfy a momentary urge? But she was adamant, insisting in the middle of that public park, "I want to have you now. I want to come close to you. I'm helpless. Please try to understand." I couldn't understand what kind of helplessness this was. There were only 2 days left. I tried again to talk her out of it, but she was firm, determined that she would not rest until she had me that day. I finally refused outright. "I don't want to do anything that would anger my Lord. You are my pure love. I've waited 2 whole years to have you in my life. I won't destroy that patience now." After listening to me, she only said, "Then don't regret it later. And don't blame me that I didn't warn you. The rest is up to you." She left the park right after that. I stood there, frozen. My mind couldn't process what had just happened. Our wedding was only 2 days away, and yet my fiancé had just asked me to sleep with her beforehand. She wanted us to book a hotel room and spend the night together. She had come fully prepared, but when I refused, she left. I couldn't understand why she wanted this. We had been in love for 2 years. She was my uncle's daughter. Our families were closely related. What I loved most about her was her modesty. Her piety had captivated my heart. For 2 whole years, she always kept a respectful distance when we talked, and now, this? I sat alone in the park for a long time, lost in thought. Zainab's request had shaken me. I had already said no, but now I regretted not asking her why she wanted it so desperately. I knew she had lied when she said it was just a passing desire. What decent girl would risk her honor just because her heart wanted something? There had to be a hidden truth behind this, something she was unwilling to tell me. Her final words kept echoing in my mind. "Don't regret it later." That sentence unsettled me. What was she trying to tell me? What secret was she carrying that she chose not to share? As soon as her first call came, I rushed to the park, but what she said there was enough to shake me to the core. She said something shocking and then fell silent. I stared at her, bewildered. How could a girl even say something like that? At first, I thought I had misheard, but when she repeated it, a chill ran down my spine. Why would she want something like that, especially when our wedding was just 2 days away? Her request left me stunned. When I asked her if she was in her senses and questioned the nature of her demand, asking, "Why do you want to be intimate 2 days before our wedding?" she simply replied, "I just feel like it." I tried to reason with her, telling her to control her emotions for just 2 more days. After that, we would belong to each other forever. I reminded her that we were about to tie the knot in a sacred bond. Why was she urging me towards something sinful? Did she not know that intimacy before marriage, even if the wedding is just hours away, is considered fornication in our faith? I promised her that after marriage, she could come close to me whenever she desired. I would always be there for her, but she insisted right there in the park, saying she needed to be with me now and begged me to understand her helplessness. I couldn't understand what kind of helplessness this was. There were only 2 days left. I tried again to make her understand, but she remained adamant. She said she wouldn't be satisfied until she was close to me today. I firmly refused her. I told her I didn't want to do anything that would displease Allah. She was my pure love. I had waited 2 long years to be with her. I wasn't going to throw all that away for a mistake. When I said that, she simply responded, Then don't regret it later. And don't blame me. I warned you. With that, she left the park. I stood frozen in place, unsure what to make of it all. Just 2 days before our wedding, my fiancé had asked me to be physically intimate. She had planned everything, even booking a hotel room, but I had refused, and she walked away. I didn't understand why she wanted this. We had been in love for 2 years. She was my uncle's daughter. Our families were one and the same. She was a modest and religious girl. That's what I loved most about her. For 2 years, she always kept a respectful distance and spoke with dignity. But today, her strange reasoning had shaken me deeply. I sat alone in the park for a long time, unable to decide what to do next. Zenat's words had confused me. I had already rejected her request, but now I regretted not asking why she had said what she did. I knew she wasn't just acting on a whim. No modest girl would willingly sacrifice her dignity based solely on a passing desire. There was definitely a deeper reason, a secret she hadn't told me. Her last words echoed in my mind. Don't regret it later. That one line filled me with anxiety. What was it that she wanted to tell me? A truth that would only be revealed after intimacy. I sat for a while longer before returning home. At home, a whole different scene was unfolding. Everyone was busy preparing for the wedding. Some were playing drums, others were dancing. But I had a pale face and heavy thoughts. Earlier, I had been laughing with my friends, helping with the pre-wedding arrangements. Then suddenly, Zenat called, asking me to meet her at a nearby park, saying she was sneaking away from the beauty parlor just to see me. I initially said no, it didn't seem right. With just 2 days until our wedding, there were still social boundaries we had to respect. But she didn't listen and insisted that I come. I always respected Zenat's words, so I gave in and went. And what she said there completely shook me. I returned home in silence and locked myself in my room. I didn't feel like speaking to anyone. My aunt gestured for me to come outside, but I made an excuse about being tired and stayed in. Still lost in thoughts about Zenat, I was startled when my closest friend Jamshed suddenly sat beside me. He placed a hand on my shoulder and joked, "So, how was the meeting with Bobby?" I looked at him in shock. No one was supposed to know I had gone out. I had told everyone I was running a small errand, but when Jamshed said that, my heart sank. He laughed, tapping me on the cheek, and said, "What? You think I don't keep tabs on you? Tell me, what did Bobby say?" I asked him how he knew, and he told me he had overheard our phone conversation. He teased me further, saying, "She's got you wrapped around her finger. Said no at first, but one scolding and off you went." Normally, I would have laughed, but I didn't feel any joy anymore. I had once been excited about marrying the love of my life after 2 long years. Now that joy was clouded by confusion. Jamshed noticed my silence and turned serious. I wasn't sure I should tell him, but eventually, I decided to share everything, carefully choosing my words. His reaction mirrored mine, complete shock. He too said, "What kind of desire can't wait just 2 days? Something's definitely wrong if she's insisting on intimacy now." His words resonated with me. My mind was full of uneasy thoughts. I glanced at him and then said something quietly. He nodded in agreement. We both knew something strange was going on. Then after a pause, Jamshed said, "No, bro. Zenat Bobby is a pure-hearted, modest girl. She wouldn't do anything like that. Maybe we're misunderstanding. I'm sure there's another reason." That was all it took to make me snap. I said, "Then what's the reason? You tell me." There are only 2 days left till the wedding, and she's demanding this now. Something's wrong. I'm sure of it. If she really wanted to be intimate with me, she could have done it any time after our engagement. Why now, just 2 days before our wedding? That question kept echoing in my mind. It was a strong question, and even Jamshed, nodding thoughtfully, agreed. "You're right, man. But considering her simple nature, it's hard to guess anything." We kept talking for quite some time, trying to make sense of the situation. Neither of us could draw any concrete conclusion. Eventually, Jamshed left the room while I remained caught in a web of confusion. I couldn't figure out what could have pushed Zenat to this extent. After thinking for a while, I decided to call her, but her mother answered instead. After a quick greeting, I asked about Zinat, and she said, "She has some friends over and is sitting in the upstairs portion. If you'd like, I can call her to speak with you." I paused for a second, then declined politely and lay down in my room. My mind was scattered. I didn't know what to think. I had barely lain down when my phone started ringing again. I checked the screen. Zinat calling was glowing on display. I quickly sat up, but I had no idea what I would say to her. Even after I answered, neither of us spoke a word. That had never happened before. Even after fights, we would always talk. But today, there was just silence. Eventually, I ended the call myself and placed the phone on the side table. I wanted to shake off these thoughts, so I went outside to clear my head. The fresh air helped me relax a little. That night, when I met Jamshed again, he tried to revisit the same topic, but I shut him down. I didn't want to carry that weight anymore. Jamshed, sensing my irritation, finally let it go. Time moved on, and those 2 days flew by in the blink of an eye. Tonight was my wedding night. Just a short while before our wedding procession was to leave, I found myself deep in thought, still replaying Zinat's words in the park. My heart was uneasy. I didn't know what truth was about to be revealed to me tonight. Soon the wedding procession left with drums and music. Everyone in the family was joyful. For their sake, I pushed Zinat's troubling request out of my mind. But once we reached their home, a different story began to unfold. Zinat's mother and sisters were acting strange. Their welcome was cold, merely customary. There was tension in their expressions. I didn't understand what was going on. During casual conversation, her mother even took a jab at my family, saying, "Seems like you didn't raise your son properly. We're only staying silent because of our daughter, or else we would have rejected this marriage completely." My mother and sisters were stunned. They had no idea what provoked such comments, but for the sake of our family's honor, they chose silence. After the basic rituals, Zinat was officially sent off with me. Once we reached home, more traditions were carried out, and then Zinat was sent to my room. As I was about to enter the room, my mother called me to hers. I was slightly anxious, but respected her voice and went inside. She sat on her bed, visibly upset. I guess she wanted to complain about my in-laws' behavior. I prepared myself mentally and sat beside her. As I expected, she began to vent her frustrations. I remained silent, thinking it was the wisest choice. After some time, realizing it was my wedding night, she sighed and held back further complaints. She gave me permission to go. Without wasting another moment, I quietly left her room and walked toward mine. As soon as I entered the room, the fragrance of rose petals filled my senses. I tried to push all troubling thoughts aside and looked toward the bed where Zinat was sitting, rightfully now, as my wife. I smiled and greeted her with a warm salam, to which she only responded with a faint nod. Step by step, I walked over and sat near the bed. No amount of gratitude to Allah felt enough. I had finally received the love I had waited for. I had always heard that people rarely end up with their first love, but here I was, blessed by my Lord, sitting beside mine. Smiling, I gently took Zinat's hand in mine. I began with soft, loving words and then leaned forward to kiss her hand, but before I could, Zinat pulled away from me as if I were a stranger. She backed up against the bed's headboard and I froze in confusion. Just days ago, she had pleaded with me to come close, and now, when I had every right as her husband, she was pushing me away. My patience broke. I couldn't hold back my anger anymore and shouted, "What kind of game are you playing? When I wanted to stay within the limits of our religion, you insisted I come close to you. And now, when I'm rightfully your husband, you're running away? I don't understand what you want." She shook her head in tears, unable to speak. I reached forward and lifted her veil, but what I saw melted my heart. Her face was drenched in tears. Without thinking, I pulled her into my arms. The moment she fell against my chest, she broke down completely, sobbing uncontrollably. I didn't know what to make of it. Gently, I ran my hand through her hair, trying to calm her, and softly asked, "Zinat, why? Why did you want this? Tell me the truth." Still sobbing, she repeated the same painful words. "I kept asking you to spend time with me, just a little. I begged you, but you didn't listen. You sent me away without a single question. If only you had sat down with me, asked why I wanted it, maybe none of this would have happened. But now what's the point? I'm ruined. I have nothing left to give you anymore." I felt the ground slip from beneath me. Her words, each one of them, was like a dagger. I wasn't a child. I understood exactly what she meant. With her face buried in her knees, she continued to cry, and I stood there, unable to move, unable to breathe. I was sinking into myself. When I finally snapped out of the shock, I was filled with rage. I grabbed Zanat's arm in a tight grip, looked straight into her swollen red eyes, and growled, "Who did you do this with? Shameless woman! Didn't you feel even an ounce of guilt? Couldn't you wait for just 2 more days? What fire was burning in you that you couldn't hold back?" My anger consumed me. I wanted to scream, to slap her, to erase every trace of what she had just said. She sat before me now, my wife, but I couldn't accept her like this. My pride, my honor, everything was crushed. Hearing my words, Zanat suddenly pushed me away with force. Crying hysterically, she screamed, "Don't blame me now. This is all your fault. You refused to listen when I needed you the most." And then, as she began to speak, my world began to collapse. I couldn't believe what she was saying. I kept denying it. "No, that's not true. You must be mistaken." But what she said next silenced every doubt. She told me everything. She opened up the truth that had been buried for so long. Zanat revealed that your friend Jamshed had been harassing me for a long time. "I told you many times that your friend made me uncomfortable," Zanat said between sobs. "But you always brushed it off like it was a joke." I sat frozen, listening as her words sliced through me. I was tired, Faraz. I had blocked so many of his numbers, but every day he messaged me again from a new one. He threatened me. He said he would poison your mind against me. And one day you'd leave me and he would marry me instead. Her voice cracked. I hated everything about him. I had decided I would tell you, no matter what. But when I threatened Jamshed that I would expose him, he laughed. He said, "If you do that, I'll make sure your groom never shows up on the wedding day. I'll turn him against you." I was terrified, she admitted, her eyes filled with fear. Because I knew how much you trusted Jamshed. I knew he had influence over you. I became scared, distant, and stopped speaking to you properly. We started fighting more, and I couldn't even tell you why. My heart sank. It all started making sense. I remembered the times Jamshed subtly insulted Zanat, tried to plant doubts in my head. But I never believed him because I trusted Zanat's character. I took a deep breath and asked, "Okay, let's say I believe he was harassing you, that he threatened you, that you wanted to tell me but didn't get the chance. But then why did you say what you said in the park that day? Why did you ask to sleep with me before our marriage? That's something I still can't understand." What Zanat said next made my blood run cold. She whispered, "Because during those days, Jamshed started getting more aggressive. He told me that no matter what, he would spend the wedding night with me, even if he had to force it." My world shattered. "He began coming near our house," she continued. "He said everything I liked, everything meant for me, always ends up in your hands, Faraz." He was obsessed, burning with envy. And that's why I asked you, begged you in the park. I just wanted your mark on me, not his. I wanted to protect what should have been yours before he could take it. She wiped her tears and looked away. "But you didn't understand. You thought I was shameless. You sent me away, and I still respected your decision. I respected your purity. I admired that you didn't take advantage of me even when I asked." Zanat's voice grew faint, broken. "But someone else did. Someone close to you." I couldn't breathe. "After you told Jamshed everything about our conversation, his eyes lit up," she continued. "He saw it as his opportunity. While I was on my way to the parlor, he intercepted me halfway and kidnapped me." I stared at her, stunned. "He took me to a hotel room. I begged him not to do it. I cried, pleaded, told him I was your fiancé, your Amana. But he didn't listen. He forced himself on me." Zanat's voice cracked completely now. "He destroyed me, stained me. And when my mother and sisters heard, they thought it was you. They believed you had taken me to that hotel room. That's why their behavior changed. That's why they treated your family so coldly. I felt like I was drowning. My soul had left my body. Zanet continued, "My life is ruined now. I have nothing left to give you. If you had never told Jamshed about our conversation, maybe none of this would have happened. Maybe he never would have dared." My hands trembled. She was telling the truth. I knew it deep inside. I had told Jamshed everything that day, and now Zanat was shattered because of it. Rage flooded me. My hands clenched into fists. I stood up with fury burning through every inch of me. I knew exactly where Jamshed would be, and this time I wasn't going to just talk, and I went straight to the police station. There, I filed a report about the crime committed against my wife. The authorities responded swiftly, launching an immediate investigation. Zenet, however, looked at me in utter disbelief. She couldn't understand why I was doing all this. In her mind, I should have divorced her by now. But I hadn't done that, because the truth was I was responsible. If I had never told Jamshed about what Zanat said in the park, if I had kept that conversation between us, maybe none of this would have happened. I had unintentionally awakened something in Jamshed. The blame lay with me. And I owed it to Zanat to make it right. Through the police, I made sure Jamshed received the harshest punishment possible, but I also made sure the matter stayed confidential. I didn't want this to become public, not because I wanted to protect Jamshed, but because I wanted to protect Zanat. She was my honor, and I couldn't let anyone stain that. This was the most painful chapter of my life. The moment I had waited for, my wedding, my dream, had finally come, only to be marred by betrayal and pain. My closest friend had stabbed me in the back. And the woman I loved was violated by the hands of someone I once called brother. I was overwhelmed by grief and confusion. That's why, the very next day after the wedding, I booked tickets and insisted Zenet come with me to the northern regions. I knew if we stayed in that city any longer, people would begin to sense something had gone wrong between us. In the open air, away from the whispers and the judgment, Zanat finally began to feel my love again. I helped her heal. I stayed by her side, gently, patiently, and slowly, with time, I earned my place back in her heart. Zanat eventually told her family the full truth, that Jamshed, not I, was the one who had wronged her. Her mother and sisters were shocked, but they became deeply grateful when they realized I hadn't abandoned her, even after everything. They saw the honesty in my eyes, the sincerity in my actions. And in that honesty, they forgave me. We started building a new life, together. A life born not from perfection, but from pain, forgiveness, and the kind of love that survives even the darkest storms.